Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom, where we bring you engaging conversations and respectful disagreement across the social spectrum.
Injected with the quirks of everyday life.
Curl up as we navigate the complexities of this modern world with all the humor and warmth we can muster.
And the occasional gentle ribbing. We're glad you're here. Happy listening. We're going to start today with a would you rather. But don't worry, it's probably not what you're thinking. Nothing painful, physically, or gross. Just a simple question that sounds easy until you sit with it for a minute. Would you rather the people around you identify you as being nice or kind, and why? What's the difference?
I was taught to believe that being nice mattered. Manners mattered. Treat people the way you wanted to be treated. Don't escalate things unnecessarily. And I still believe all of that to an extent. Niceness keeps things civil. It helps people coexist. It's often one of the first things we teach our kids about how to behave in the world. I've often told the kids, be nice, usually to each other. Niceness teaches us to smooth things over, to let things go, and sometimes to stay quiet, even when something doesn't sit right. And while empathy is important, understanding where somebody is coming from, niceness on its own doesn't always move us forward. Sometimes it just keeps things comfortable.
I've been thinking a lot about how often we expect kindness to look smooth, to look quiet, to look like letting things go. And choosing kindness is usually harder than that. I felt that tension recently after I asked a genuine question on Threads the other day. Nothing provocative, just sheer curiosity. And I realized pretty quickly that I had a choice. I could stay silent and be seen as nice, or I could decide what kind of behavior I was willing to tolerate and how I wanted to respond. And that's where kindness, for me, isn't about keeping things comfortable. It's about intention. It's about staying engaged without becoming cruel myself. Kindness isn't always easy or well received, but it's choosing to respond in a way that reflects your values, even when that creates tension.
So when you put all of that together, niceness is something we're taught to keep things civil, and kindness as something that takes intention and sometimes creates tension. It brings us back to that question I teased at the start. Would you rather the people around you describe you as nice or kind? Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom.
I'm Callie.
I'm Cole.
And I'm Mom. So, Callie, I already know your answer.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. You want to be kind. You want to be known as kind.
I definitely
Cole,
do.
does it make a difference to you?
This is a little bit of a tangent.
We're 12 seconds in. Hit us with it.
Yeah. So I had a conversation with a friend of mine earlier this week, and I said, I was thinking about this today, and I learned something from you. It's good to be likable, for the people around you to like you, but it's great to have haters, because that lets you know you're doing something right. And so here's the thing. You can be nice and kind at the same time. Those two aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. Like they don't have to go to it together. I do things not because my intention is to be seen as nice or kind, but I hope that the actions that I take are perceived as being kind. That's how I would prefer to be perceived, but I don't take those actions because that's how I want to be seen. I take those actions because I think that's what's right.
I agree with that. I mean, my answer kind of was I want to be both, but I definitely want to be perceived as being kind because I think that's deeper, than more meaningful.
So I think that we should take a second and kind of define them, because I do think that oftentimes they kind of get confused, used as synonyms, and I don't really think that they are. I think that they can be from time to time, but I think generally they're different things that kind of run parallel in some ways. So I wanted to define them really quick. Now, if I say something that you guys don't agree with, feel free to chime in, but I think we can all kind of get on board. Oh, hush. Okay, so I would define nice as polite, agreeable, much more conflict avoidant. You're focused on social smoothness, and we've talked about social lubricant, making sure that everything moves smoothly. You're often motivated by approval or harmony, the kumbaya moments, if you will, but it tends to be a lot more passive. Whereas kindness, I feel like, is centered more around honesty, true caring, and being principled. I think that there is a consideration for the long-term well-being that is more taken in and more front and center with kindness. I think that it's motivated by empathy and responsibility for whoever you're interacting with. I think that kindness is much more active. Kindness requires more effort. And sometimes that effort is uncomfortable.
I don't think of kindness like that. I mean, I think of the empathy part of it, and I do agree that it's often more active. I think it's harder to be kind than it is to be nice. But looking at the boundaries is a new idea for kindness to me.
Let me hit you with a theoretical, an example here that I think kind of illustrates the difference. Let's say you had a relative who was struggling with addiction and they were living with you. And you can quite clearly see that they are struggling with addiction. And you go to them and you say one of two things. You do whatever's good for you. I'm here if you need me. My door is always open. That's nice.
That's nice.
But it doesn't necessarily help them.
Right.
Or you say, if you're going to do this thing, you can't stay here with me. I will help you through this, but I'm going to set these boundaries because I know that if you continue to do this thing, it's going to be harmful to both of us. Yeah. So if you're going to continue this, you can't stay here. That's not very nice.
I get that. And that makes complete sense. Just hasn't been in my definition previously. I mean, think about this, Callie. We both have a mutual acquaintance that we routinely say, he's the nicest guy. And other people that we know, I mean, I get so tickled because that is the definition of who he is. He's the nicest guy. And if I stop there and think, is that a good definition? Because I've always thought that it was a really good definition.
But I think that you have to take into consideration the trajectory of it, where all that leads to. If you're just being nice for the sake of everything being even keel and everybody being happy, again, that kumbaya moment, have you made any actual progress? Because just out of human nature, there is friction and turbulence amongst personal relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to come across as demonizing niceness because I don't think that I think in some cases it's worth that. In others, I don't think that's true. I think that there is a case to be made for the importance of not moving backwards. And sometimes niceness can help with that.
Yes.
Explain that. Not moving backwards.
So we've kind of defined kindness as being forward-looking. Hey, we're taking these actions. We're setting these boundaries. We're treating people this way because we think the outcome will be better. And that's really important. Sometimes that's really difficult too. And so to say, I'm going to be nice and tell you can do whatever you want, that has an opportunity to let things go backwards. But in a different relationship, to be nice, just to simply be polite, to not allow that relationship to worsen because of someone else's actions, it can at least be a place to set the bar, to say, I understand you're going through something hard and I'm not going to be cruel to you because of that. That can just be niceness.
I think the way that I kind of define it in my brain has to do with, and y'all may disagree, but has to do with niceness is much more surface level. Everything looks pretty. Everything is smooth and easy. This is all good. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the surface being easy, smooth, nice. I think kindness is digging into that much deeper, digging into what the future is going to look like, how that growth is going to work. You can throw a piece of turf on a bed of asphalt and it will look pretty. There's nothing wrong with that turf, but you're never going to grow flowers, vegetables. And you've got to take the time to break down that asphalt and cultivate that land and water it and put in effort to digging deeper, literally digging deeper to foster that relationship just between you and whatever it is that you're planting.
I think it's interesting because I think I came from a generation, maybe more than a generation, that taught women to be nice.
Oh, yeah.
To be accommodating and to do things for other people. And we found that niceness didn't always serve us well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's very interesting in this perspective. Being nice isn't necessarily always beneficial.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked before about walking down the street and getting catcalled. Cole, I know that this is a regular occurrence for you. I'm sorry. But you can react a couple of different ways when that happens, when that moment arises. You can turn around and cuss that person out. I am not some piece of me. I am not this to you. You don't have the right to say that to me. You can ignore it altogether. You can smile and say, hey, thanks. That made me feel good. I mean, there are lots of different ways that you can deal with that. I think that you're 100% correct, Mom. I think that your generation did grow up placating the people around you to your own detriments. And I think that we saw that, my generation saw that and said, yeah, that's what we're supposed to do, I think. I think that that's what we're supposed to do. This feels weird. I don't know that I like this.
Yeah, I think my generation...
niceness over kindness.
Yeah. I think my generation really recognized it, and hopefully we taught the next generation a little bit better that that's not your role in society, is to be nice.
Yeah, I think that that's absolutely true. And I think that because those two words run so parallel in many different ways, it's really easy to confuse them in everyday speech. Kids, be nice. That's good. That's a valuable thing for them to hear and know and be. But I think that your generation also showed my generation that it's okay to dig deeper too. That it's beneficial to dig deeper and go beyond just being nice. I think, again, nice is the surface level, and you can be nice and be kind by digging deeper as well. You know, I mentioned earlier in the intro, I had a couple of weird interactions on Threads, which for the most part, I think Threads is great. I've mentioned that on several occasions, but I asked a question. We were watching the opening ceremony of the Olympics, and I asked a question about, had something gone on? Is this normal? I'm not a super big Olympics fan. I'll watch it. I find it interesting. I love the stories and rooting for the underdogs and the people who are there and who've worked so hard to go and accomplish their goals and their dreams, and I'm excited for them. But I wouldn't by any stretch consider myself an Olympics super fan. So I was noticing during the opening ceremony, it's like, okay, this country, they have 2 athletes in the Winter Olympics. Okay, this country, they have 7 athletes in the Winter Olympics. And I was like, now, don't get me wrong. There were several countries that they were like, they have 154 athletes. Okay. But I was just kind of confused by that. I was like, hey, is this normal? Am I missing something? Has something happened where athletes are like, we don't want to participate? What's going on? And I had some really helpful people who came in and said, hey, for the record, this is pretty normal. In fact, this is one of the largest Winter Olympics we've ever had. On average, Winter Olympics, you have about 3,000 athletes. But in comparison to the summer, which we just had 2 years ago and is most recent memory for me, for Paris, they had 10,000 athletes. That's a big change.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong. And there were other people who weighed in saying, hey, you know, a lot of countries don't have winter weather. They don't have an opportunity to practice these things. I mean, the story about the Jamaican bobsled team is so unique and so interesting because there's no snow in Jamaica, but they were very successful at that. And so I had asked this question and got some really great answers. I also got some real jerks. Parents, mute for a second. Mom, close your ears. Kids, plug your ears. I literally had somebody who said, "Did you have a fucking lobotomy?"
And what's the purpose of that?
And that's my question. What's the purpose of that? You're not helpful. That's not productive. That's not moving anything forward. That's not teaching me anything. And I had a choice to make.
Oh.
I could block them and move on. I could respond and be like, actually, yes, I did. I did have a lobotomy. I'm so glad you noticed. I hope it's working out well. But neither of those are the choices that I took. I responded to enforce my boundaries. It's the internet, y'all. I'm allowed to ask questions. And just because you may or may not know the answer, whether they knew the answer, I have no idea because I was only accused of having had a lobotomy. But I'm allowed to ask questions on the internet. And so I responded, for lack of a better term, in kind. I'm so sorry that my curiosity threatened your superiority, because that's a boundary for me. You don't get to just sit here and be an asshole for the sake of being an asshole. I'm a really kind, nice person. I love encouraging people and cheering people on, strangers on the internet, on threads. That's one of my favorite pastimes. I love to do that. And there are certainly questions that I'm like, I don't know the answer to that. Oh, that's a stupid question. I'm not going to answer it. And I just scroll right by. And so for somebody to take time out of their day and ask me such a ridiculous question in response to my curiosity didn't sit well with me. And I also wasn't willing to let it just sit there out in the internet and be like, oh, well, this is acceptable, because it wasn't. For the record, their thread has now been removed.
And
See
for
ya,
the record, you
sucker.
had people that came to your defense.
Yeah. Hey, that was really an unhelpful answer. Maybe you should be less petty.
Yeah. That's the kindness.
Yeah. Because they didn't have to.
No,
They
they didn't have
took
to
the
defend
time
you.
to dig a little bit deeper. They didn't know me, but they took the time to dig a little bit deeper and say, hey, let me give you some facts. Let me support you. And this is not a stupid question. That's what the internet is great at in lots of ways.
Look, here's the thing. Even if it is a stupid question, if you're saying, I don't know the answer to this, okay, here's the answer.
I got some
That's all you
great
have to do.
answers. Yeah.
I just have to wonder what generates that kind of response. I mean, it's like I told y'all earlier. My first response to that is, oh my gosh, did your parents not teach you to
Manners?
behave better than that?
Obviously
Which
not.
Which is very quickly followed on, well, maybe you didn't have a mom to teach you that. And I'm so sorry about that. And I'm sad about that. But again, it's still on you. Even if you didn't have somebody to teach you that at a younger age, you're responsible for that now. So
Ignorance is
where
not
does
an
that come from?
excuse.
No. What is the benefit of being that aggressive and unkind?
Short-term dopamine hit.
I mean, like, that's the part where I kind of start twitching. I'm like, did you type that in your phone and be like, oh yeah, that'll show her. I feel better now.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened.
Blows my mind.
You really think?
Yes.
Well,
They get an immediate kick of some chemical in their brain because they have now expressed their own personal superiority.
They've belittled somebody else. And it gives
Why
them
why do bullies in school beat up kids smaller than them?
because somebody did it to them. And I'm just
It's
not
just-
willing to accept that as normal, as reasonable. And so I didn't come back and call them an asshole. I didn't come back and belittle them right back. But I also didn't excuse that behavior because, Cole, I think you're right. Bullies, what is the saying? Hurt people hurt people. And while I'm sorry that is where they are in their life, You don't get to hurt me just because it's easier for you. And I think that
I
that's
agree.
where we can go through this whole part about kindness is often harder. That's digging in. That's doing the work.
And kindness isn't always nice.
Agreed. And I wasn't empirically nice. And I'm okay with that. And I don't feel bad. And I didn't get this big dopamine hit to hit them back. But at the same time, I do not tolerate that kind of behavior.
Hopefully, doubtfully, but hopefully it could lead to change.
I mean, on a percentage scale, I'm going
Throw
to
some
probably
math at
give
it.
you single digits, but sure, possible that that a black hole opens up and an asteroid comes out of it and smokes the Earth this afternoon.
And I'm thinking about the story about the kid throwing the starfish back. It made a difference to that one. It made a difference to that one. I mean, I'm going to hope. Yeah. I'm going to wish that it made a difference. And
that's
maybe
fine.
it was just a bad day.
And that's the part. That's the coolest part. Everybody's allowed to have a bad day. And I do not have any expectation of getting a message, hey, I was really being a jerk the other day. I'm sorry about that.
Would be nice, though, wouldn't it? Or
Sure.
kind.
But so would $50 billion. How realistic is that? Not sure.
I feel another tangent coming on.
Oh, no.
Do
I think
it.
we should avoid this one. No, I think we should avoid this one.
So let's start talking into...
I'll go this far.
I knew he couldn't do it.
If you guys are familiar, I think I've brought this up before with the dead internet theory. How do you know this was even a real person?
You have a point.
Oh, agreed.
Well, that's a really interesting thing, though, because if it was a bot and you challenge it, does it change the bot's trajectory?
If the bot is programmed to respond to questions on threads with, what did you get, a fucking lobotomy? And you just go and look at its history and it's just that comment 10,000 times, I'm going to guess probably not.
Dang it.
This bot, if it is not intelligent. It is programmed to find posts on a website and respond to them with the sole purpose of
Inciting
generating
chaos.
Not even chaos, but emotion.
There you
To
go.
instill anger, to drive interaction.
Drive interaction.
What a world we live in.
Yeah. Anyways, tangent over. Back to being nice and kind.
So I wanted to talk about kind of why society rewards niceness, but tends to need kindness. And I'm going to go back to my flower in the sidewalk analogy here. I think that just putting a blanket on everything is nice. Everything looks pretty on the outside, doesn't make it real on the inside, right? And humans in general are wired to avoid any kind of social rejection. Niceness lowers that immediate interpersonal risk, whereas kindness introduces some uncertainty and even some conflict to start that heavy lifting of doing the work, of digging in. And I think that it's just so interesting once you really start thinking about, I have always said, I have a couple of things that I want to do with my life. I want to be financially secure. I want to be happy. I want to add value. And I want to be kind. Niceness is sometimes a part of that, but it isn't one of the 4 pillars of how I live my life. And I think that going back to Mom, what you were saying earlier, I think that having seen how that niceness impacted your generation was really helpful and constructive for me to say, hey, that's not always the best answer. Hey, that's not always the right answer. And while I hate that you had to be part of the experience of figuring that out, I appreciate the work that your generation did to show us that there's more out there for us.
It's still going on.
Absolutely.
There's still a lot more work to be done.
There will
It's
always be.
Programming that we've been taught, I think, that we do almost instinctively, innately now, that we need to be aware of. If my goal is not niceness, but kindness, it's a much fuller job and goal workload to be kind. And
I
it's
just keep
funny because
having
when I think of you, I mean, you really do work very hard to be kind. And when I see that in you, it's normally when you're talking to somebody and you just have an ability to empathize with people. And I think that that's what it is. I haven't thought about the boundaries because I don't see that in what I normally experience with you, with other people, in the way that you exemplify kindness. But it makes sense, Cole, when you talk about the drug addict relative, it makes total sense that there's a difference between tolerating being nice or helping and being kind. It's a new idea of the boundaries.
I just keep like my brain is being flooded this morning with analogies, and this one I thought was pretty good. Niceness is buying your ticket to see the show. Kindness is investing in the theater.
Yeah. Because it's a lot more work. There's a lot more to it. It's a lot deeper, longer investment.
I think it has to be much more intentional.
Yeah.
Sure. But that's what investment is, right?
Yeah.
You can buy the ticket to the show and be done in an hour and a half. You don't invest in the theater and walk away empty-handed with nothing and never think about it again. But I also think, Mom, you were talking about boundaries earlier or a minute ago, and I'm trying to think, there was an old adage that I feel like applies here. And it was something along the lines of, if somebody throws a fit because of boundaries that you've set, it just is that much more evidence that boundaries are needed, that boundary is needed. And so I think to some extent, this is absolutely intended to be a compliment. I think because you don't see those boundaries quite as directly is because they're not set the same way with you. They're not needed for you. You're not having that friction of a boundary being set right there in front of you to address all of the time with me in most cases, is what I mean. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure I followed it.
I don't have to set boundaries with you. I don't have to tell you to be nice to me or to be kind to me. And so, because that just isn't a thing, you are inherently nice and kind to me most of the time. And so those boundaries don't create friction between us. You don't notice them every day because
you're not trying to climb over them.
Because you're not trying to climb over them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Thank you.
I'll take the compliment.
It's certainly intended to be one.
Okay.
Roundabout, my bad, but
It was such a nice thing for you to say.
Sorry.
So, Gig, I think you had some empirical evidence on the difference between the two. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I think that, again, we have to kind of toe the line of niceness isn't a bad thing. Being nice isn't wrong. There are lots of beneficial qualities and characteristics of being nice. Niceness strengthens group cohesion and cooperation, especially in team settings. I mean, you catch more flies with honey, right? And so I think that there are a lot of good things. There are studies out there that show that acting nice, even things such as smiling or using a warm tone of voice, actually boosts teamwork and cooperation by strengthening those social connections. Can you imagine walking into your job, a group project or something, and you've got Grumpy Grinch in the corner? Are you super excited to go and work with Grumpy Grinch? Probably not. But if you've got a little bit more, I don't want to call it a cheerleader, but a little bit more ready to go, ready to dive in, willing participant, you're going to be much more inclined to get to work together. That is one of the characteristics of niceties that I think are beneficial. I think that we have to be careful to not silo being nice as just being soft feelings. It raises morale. It raises that willingness to cooperate. I think that being nice feels good. I think that You'd hear about all the people paying it forward. I want to buy the guy behind me their coffee. I want to take care of and the trains that kind of causes. There were 62 people who bought the person's behind them meal, coffee, whatever. Like, that's just a good deed for fun. And outside of that,
that's not kindness.
What's digging deeper about it?
I think it could be kindness because especially if it starts a trend of 62 people behind you, if it just encourages people to make a step forward, I think that is kindness.
But I think that's the thing. It can be both, but it doesn't have to be both. I think that if you've got 62 people in a row, one of them is doing it just to not be an asshole. I don't want to be the one who breaks this. Okay, fine. Buy the one behind me. Sounds good. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And so I think that in some instances, yes, that would be classified as kindness. And in some, it wouldn't. Some, it's just being nice.
Okay.
I think that people are really good at distinguishing kindness and compassion in how they respond to other people's suffering. You talk about empathy. Compassion acts aim to directly reduce that suffering. I want to take some of this away from you. I want to make you feel better. I want to distract you from only sitting here in your sorrow, frustration, whatever it may be. Whereas kindness is more intended to help foster your well-being and bring about your flourishing in those moments. I tend to be, somebody will say, my dog just died, and I don't always know what to say. I have been on the other side of that. I've been on the receiving end of that. And, oh, I'm so sorry is a nice thing to say, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't fix anything. And so I tend to be that person who I just want to sit there and be with you. I don't have anything good to say. And I'm not trying to distract you, but I can be here.
What's the story of the little boy who climbs up in the person's lap and they say, why did you couldn't do anything about their sadness? And he says, but I could cry with them.
Because think about that just from an emotional standpoint, beyond just the crying part of it. All of a sudden, you've started developing a relationship of trust. No matter where you are in your spectrum of relationship with that person, I can be exactly what I am with you in that moment. And that matters. And I think that grief is a really good example of this in many cases, but I'm sorry that happened to you. That really sucks. It just isn't very helpful. Whereas an opportunity to be hurt and to feel lost and safe in that lostness. Is that a word? I don't know.
Not really.
To be safe.
It is now.
Yep. To be safe in your lostness, I think is that safety net. Allowing somebody to be exactly where they are and being okay with that. And to not make them be alone. To not force that person who's struggling, who's grieving, to entertain you, to make you feel better. Hey, I'm really sorry your dog just died. It's okay. Because now it has taken the whole toll and the whole situation and flipped it around to where now I have to come back and be nice to you and make sure that you're comfortable. But I'm still grieving the loss of my dog. And to take that weight and burden and add something like entertaining that person in that moment who's trying really hard to be nice is adding weight to their plate, to add more to their plate rather than just being there. And there are absolutely people who just want to be alone. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that either. But recognizing what it is that they need and providing that for them, I think is the digging deeper. It's not just the platitude of, hey, I'm sorry that this happened to you. Now you're making it weird. I don't know where to go from here. You need to be alone, and I just want you to know I'm going to be here if you need me. Cole, you've mentioned it before. You're really good at that. You're not going to come in and be like, so tell me about all your problems and what's going on. But you are going to come in and say, I'm here if you need me. I'm here if you need to talk. I got you. And I think that that alone really carefully illustrates the differences in those definitions of niceness and kindness. I'm going to supply you with what you need rather than give you what I have to give.
Yeah. In this specific context, I think that's kind of a two-way street because I don't know what you need. So, like, I need you to help me if that's what you're looking for from me. And if it's just somebody to sit there and listen, that's fine. If you need more, you have to tell me what that more is.
Yeah. Yeah. My favorite is when somebody's angry. I don't want you to yell at me. I didn't do this. This has nothing to do with me. But I'll be the first person to say, if you need somebody to yell at, let me know. Because now I know you've set the stage. I know that you just need to be angry and you need to be heard. You don't need anything else from me. You don't need me to come in to fix it. You don't need me to point you in the right direction. You just need to be angry for a minute. And I have no problem providing you a safe space to yell and be frustrated and get it all out. Because I think bottling all of that crap up sucks. It's weight. Yeah. So psychologists have found that kindness and compassion are definitely not the same thing, as we've been discussing. Compassion is about suffering directly, while kindness is about creating conditions for well-being and happiness. I think that, again, it's about digging deeper. Kindness is digging deeper. Kindness is willing to go to the next step and to go the extra mile, where niceness is very surface level.
I just keep thinking kindness has a weight to it that niceness doesn't have.
Yeah.
Niceness is so surface.
Kindness is, you can come here to get away from that, but you can't bring it here with you.
You believe that?
What do you mean?
I think kindness is, you don't have to do the work alone. I'll help you carry it.
I think that's part of it.
Hey, go back to what you said. You can bring that here.
You can come here to get away from that thing. Whatever that thing it is you're trying to get away from, but you can't bring it with you. We're working to get away from that. So this zone of kindness, whatever that is, can't be here.
The yuckiness moving forward, not the grief.
Sure. And like in the instance of grief, it's obviously you can't say you can't grieve here, but it's, you have to be taking the steps to move forward with that grief. Let me help you.
Yeah.
Let me show you things that you can do, but you can't just wallow in that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't just
the
wallow
willingness. Yeah, the willingness to do the work. I'm happy to help you do the work. Yes. But we have to be doing the work.
I can't do it for you, though.
Right. I think that makes sense. So niceness is a real psychological trait connected with friendliness and happiness, but it's a specific type of pro-social behavior that is distinct from other forms of kindness. Research uses a niceness scale that shows that niceness, warm, friendly actions is a distinct kind of behavior, but doesn't capture all of what kindness can be. I think that, again, we have to recognize that while they may appear to run parallel, they are different things.
I got stuck on the niceness scale and I was literally thinking, oh, so what's a 1 on the niceness scale versus a 10 on the niceness scale? Just another tangent for you.
Thank you. Thank you is a 1. Thank you for doing that for me. This meant a lot to me. I appreciated you recognizing where I was.
Okay.
Is probably a 5. And then I would say a 10 is somewhere along the lines of, and I feel like I'm going to come back here in 2 hours after we finish this recording. I'm going to be like, oh, I had a much better example, but this is what I got. So bear with me. I think 10 is, thanks for doing that for me however long ago. Now I want to return that favor. I got you.
Well, again, 10 could be with kindness mixed in, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Sorry. The niceness scale, just the visual in my head.
So, no, I think that that's great. So I think that there's nothing unkind about thank you on the one, right? But scooting that scale up, comparing it with and contrasting it and in conjunction with other positive actions increase the meaning and the confidence that's built as well as the value of the connection. That's
Okay.
to me where the scale kind of changes.
Gotcha.
I also think, and we talked about this ages ago in another episode when we were talking about saying please and thank you to AI chatbots and large language models, learning language models, whichever way it is, I can never get it right. That is not only to, at least for me, is not only to help keep me out of trouble in the case of a AI revolt. It changes something in my brain that says, hey, saying please and thank you and having those manners, even with something as distant and unreal as an AI chatbot, still matters and helps me develop that habit and form that trait to be consistent when I am talking to a human. And so thank you to an AI chatbot is a 1. Thank you to my mom for making brownies is higher than a 1 because it means and it deepens that connection.
I think that would be letting you have a bite of that brownie.
It was a really good brownie and I'm very appreciative.
But here's the thing. People who actively do kind acts for others do report more meaning, more self-confidence, more connection than with
Yeah.
other positive behaviors. So there are psychological benefits unique to kindness. I love
Yes.
that.
Yes. I think that, I mean, kind of going back to the 62 people behind you in the line thing, doing good things and kind things to other people, nice things even, feels good. I always go back to compliments. Feel like I am so weird, like, oh, Callie, you're creeping on that lady in her cute dress, but she looks great. But am never, ever, ever sitting there going, somebody just complimented my dress. What a creep.
Yeah.
It feels good. It feels good to compliment somebody, but it also feels good to be the recipient of that compliment. And I have to remind myself that I'm not a creeper and that at least I hope they don't think I am.
I don't know. Sometimes
Probably
maybe.
not.
Oh, hush. Nobody asked you. And if I have to start complimenting your dresses, we're going to have a few other talks.
Yeah.
Not judging,
Some more boundaries.
but I think that
I
you
do
would look
think it's
better in
interesting, though.
tea length.
You've noted here that kindness doesn't just make other people feel good, that it makes you feel more competent and connected.
Yeah,
And there's a real win to that.
absolutely.
Well,
Because
again, you're
means
invested.
something. Yes.
You're
Yeah.
putting work into it.
Yeah.
And going back to my compliment scenario, even something as simple as that, to see somebody out there who looks nice, who is nice, who's doing whatever it is that you're complimenting them on that you don't know, a stranger, takes a little bit of courage. Hey, I am going to put myself out there for the benefit of them so that they feel good. That takes a little bit of work. I am, again, a broken record. This is muscle memory. You get better at it. It gets easier the more you practice it and the more you do it. But working out, especially reasonable, and is a good thing. Your body benefits from that. Your brain benefits from that.
Here's a quote you put in that says, experts say niceness is about how you look to others, while kindness is about what you're generally trying to do for someone else. That's nice.
It's the depth.
It's the depth.
I
Yeah,
love
you
that.
were talking about this earlier, and I brought it up when we were talking last night. But I just thought it was really interesting. It came across my feed a couple of weeks ago when you were kind of starting to talk about prepping for this episode, and it's just like a Twitter thread, and this guy goes, when I describe East Coast versus West Coast culture to my friends, I often say the East Coast is kind but not nice. The West Coast is nice but not kind. And East Coasters immediately get it, and West Coasters get mad. And I think that I think that there is maybe stigma is the right word for people from the West Coast being superficial. They're nice on the outside because that's how they're supposed to look.
It looks good.
And yeah, because it looks good, and that's what's important. Whereas it's different for people on the East Coast. Like the outward appearance is less important. They may be kind of brusque is the term that I'm looking for, gruff on the outside, but like one of the top responses was stand at a flight of stairs in the New York subway with a stroller. Someone will grab the other end, help you carry the stroller, and then walk away without saying a word. That's kindness. They're not being nice. They're not saying nice stroller. They're not saying, oh, look at this cute baby. They just know that, hey, this has to be done. So we're going to do it.
I'll help. But they're taking
That's a
that
great
extra
example.
step of digging in just a little bit deeper. They could continue down the stairs without saying a word and without recognizing it at all. But they don't. I would appreciate it if somebody helped me, so I'll help them. Let's do it. Let's knock it out real quick.
And it's not like I don't need a thank you. I don't need a reward. That's not what it's for. It's because if you're stuck here, you're going to be in everyone's way.
Yeah. But again, you're not only looking out, like as the helper in that instance, you're not only looking out for yourself and trying to make yourself feel good. I did a good deed and helped that mom with her stroller. You're looking out for everybody else who's getting ready to come down those stairs. Let's get them out of the way so that it's all clear. Nobody else has to worry about it.
And you don't do it because it makes you feel good. You do it because that's what needs to be done.
Utilitarian.
Yeah.
But the coolest part
does it make you feel good? Great. That's a nice side benefit.
Feel good. Yeah.
But that's not the point. That's not why you're doing it.
Right. I mean, outside of falling down the stairs in that instance or tripping over some toy that fell out of the stroller, like there's nothing harmful to you in this instance.
Yeah.
Unless they think you're trying to kidnap their baby and grab the stroller and whack you with it. That would be harmful, but hopefully that doesn't happen and they just appreciate the gesture.
I mean, surely you can say, let me help you. And that's a sign.
I mean, here's the thing. We're humans. We don't need words to communicate. You just say, like, you just can look at them and nod and extend your hand and they'll say, oh, yes, thank you.
Yeah. So I've got another deal here. It says kindness doesn't always look nice because it's driven by deeper intention, not surface harmony. And I'm going to go back to a little bit of a DIY analogy here. If you are redoing your kitchen, it is going to look worse before it gets better. You have got to dig through taking down the backsplash and pulling out the cabinets and doing all of this. And the first coat of paint is never going to be perfect and pristine. It is going to look worse before it gets better. Kindness is doing the work to get to the better. So
fascinating. Like I said, I think this is fascinating to me because I just never put the boundaries on that definition. And so it's really good for me to be able to expand that definition and that understanding. And I think it's also beneficial to say it's okay to be nice sometimes, but it's not mandatory. You don't just do it to keep the peace. There are other benefits that you can accomplish. So I think it was entertaining, all from a thread, the lobotomy thread.
And there's more to life than just being nice. You can go deeper than that.
That's really important.
Am I being nice because I want to present myself as nice? Or am I being nice because I want better for the people that are around me?
Yeah. Because it actually means something. It's a fun topic.
So this is a little twist. This is our weird thought. And I read this story and I had a lot of questions. So I'm going to get y'all's take on this. Alabama used nitrogen hypoxia to carry out a death penalty on a man who had been on death row for 26 years. The interesting part to me was that the person that he had murdered, their son, who was 11 at the time, was against it and tried everything possible to prevent this from happening. And
the execution
from happening. And the state really didn't give him any credence whatsoever. There were a lot of fascinating things about this. Number one, this kid was 11 years old when I believe it was his mom was murdered. And he grew up on his own. At 15, he was paying his own bills. The change to his life and what occurred after that and the hardship that he endured as a kid. And yet he came to this and said, this is too much. This is not the right thing to happen. I don't want this to happen. And the other side of that was he really wanted to meet with this person who had murdered his family member, and prison rules denied that he could do that. It was a rule that he could not meet with the inmate that close to the execution. And I was just like, why? I mean, what's the benefit of not allowing somebody affected by that to not have any interaction? I just was dumbfounded that there's actually a law that prevented him from meeting with this person.
Well, and the other thing that I think is really important here, if I remember correctly, we're not sitting here talking about some case that happened in 1984. This was in January, if I remember correctly, of 2026.
The asphyxiation was.
The execution, yes.
The execution was.
And so I think that that's just, to me, further proof that we as a society have some serious work to do. I'm not trying to get into the capital punishment of it all, but if you've got somebody who is now 26 years away from a crime and wants to go speak to somebody who committed a crime against them, there's nothing more that they can take out of it. They can't harshen their sentence. I mean, it's like, why would you deny them that opportunity?
Yeah. I felt so bad for this kid who is now an adult, and the lack of kindness from the state and compassion from the state to let him have some closure and to let him address what he felt like needed to be addressed. I was appalled and shocked, and like I said, I had lots of questions about this one.
And the governor of Alabama came out with a very hard-line stance. We are doing this execution to defer future murders, to prevent the murderer from ever killing again, and to express society's outrage at such a terrible crime. And it just, to me, screams, this is our show of force.
Yes.
This is us showing that we're tough.
Yes.
And I sat there going, but is it? Does that really show how tough you are, or does that show how kind of ignorant you are, short-sighted
Does
you
it
might
really
be?
prevent anything?
Yeah.
And again, I'm not talking about the capital murderer's sentence. I'm really talking about, where is the compassion for this victim?
Yeah.
Because that's what seemed to be missing for me.
Yeah. Who are you punishing this person for?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you get the nitrogen hypoxia in it. The whole thing is weird.
The whole thing was weird. It was the strangest story.
So weird.
Yeah.
So weird.
How about a good news story?
Yeah. Please.
So, I recently lost a friend, and I thought this was the coolest idea, and know that I have this supply of things too. Yeah. But what they did is, she had bought greeting cards or postcards or note cards, and they gave them out at her service and said, they put them out on a table, and there were lots of them. Let's just say, I'm not going to classify the number, but there were a whole bunch of them. Some of them were hysterically funny. Some of them were very sweet. I mean, these were blank cards that she'd bought with the intention of sending to somebody. Yeah, her stash, which again, I have a stash just like that. But they put them out at her funeral and said, look through these. The ones that you think she would have sent to you are, the ones that tickle you. pick them up and take them home and think of her. And I thought that was such a cool idea to do with something that she had touched and that, had attracted her attention. I thought it was such a fun idea.
Yeah, I think that it was. I mean, I think that you can see somebody's personality so much, especially after
Yeah.
they're not there anymore. You can see their personality and kind of hear their heart in those moments. We had a card the other day that we were laughing about that Dad had bought Mom for Valentine's Day ages ago.
Yeah.
And it was about a donkey and locking his ass up in jail and all of this. If loving you is wrong, lock my ass up in jail. And it just screamed Dad.
Yeah. Well, okay. Also, we have to put in that we're sitting there one night and all of a sudden we start hearing this weird noise.
Weird noise.
Just a little beep. Just a beep, 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 beep.
It was
And
not even a beep. It sounded more like a ticking time bomb.
So we're all scouring the room, trying to figure out. I mean, we pulled boxes out and we moved magazines and we were down on the floor on our hands and knees looking for this. And it turned out to be one of those battery-powered
singing
cards where you
cards.
open it, it sang an old hee-haw song. And the battery apparently was going dead. And so it had started to make its own noise. And so Callie, how long did we spent a bit of time looking for this stupid card only to open it up and it really be exactly your dad. Now, I will also say that in the middle of the night, it started again. We'd moved it. We'd opened it. We had it. And in the middle of the night, 3:00 in the morning, it's sitting over there beeping again. And I'm trying to rip it apart to rip the batteries out because it's still going.
Obnoxious.
And it would just make its own little idea of
noise.
Now's the time to start making noise. But it was pretty funny. There is another story, though. There are two best friends that have exchanged the same birthday card back and forth for 81 years. And it started and they sent it. And when you open it and you look at it, it's got all of their signatures and notes over the 81 years that they've sent the exact same card back and forth to each other over that period of time. It was fun. I mean, talk about history.
It started in 1944 when they were 14 years old. And she received a birthday card when her family had moved away to Indianapolis during World War II. And these two girls at the time just kept sending it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And that means somebody kept up with it for 81 years.
Yeah. I mean, think about keeping a card. I mean, y'all would say I do that anyway, but I don't send them back and forth. But what a cool, and I went through the whole thing. During the war, it would have been, it would have been harder for them to get a new card and all of those kinds of things. And so they were recycling in 1944 to send this card back. But the fact that they kept it up for 81 years back and forth to each other just was a fun idea.
Cool. Very cool.
Very kind. And nice. Yeah. Love you guys.
Love y'all.
Me too.